trying to find a place to put this.
Today, Scott is gonna do some experimenting with Stephanie. So I wanted to show you that before we left to fly home. We've had such a great visit with Stephanie and David. Here's David.
Alright, and let's grab a brush.
An apron, you look really nice.
An apron.
Nice shirt.
So let's look at the tools you have already.
Alright, so we're
Like-
going to try these different things here. Palette knife and just a brush.
So this is something that you could buy for kitchen or art supplies on a handle. And your Catalyst ones are a lot of times just like the hand smaller ones. And then this looks like a, is this a pastel
This
thing?
one here too.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
It's just a rubber tool.
And then you just put out tons more paint than Stephanie
got
would
some of
normally.
these.
So
Yeah,
you
those are her
really do
piles.
need to put paint. And
Yeah.
that's, I think, one thing that people tend to
Since I'm going
forget.
to use this, I will put
That's a
on,
Centurion
I will put on
canvas.
these gloves.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Do you have some more for yourself?
Yep.
Okay, good. Yeah, so when you're using this hand tool, it can get pretty messy a lot of times. And so I would put on, well, I just have a whole little box of them. But,
I have the box actually in the garage.
I'll also sometimes just, my hands will just get dirty, but, and then you wash them. But, all right, so you can put on with a brush, okay, like this, okay? And you can just work thick or you can work thinner. Put on a bunch of different ways you can put it on, okay? You can work thinner, and you could do several different brush strokes, different types of brush strokes, putting on things like this, putting on some yellow. So a lot of times what you'll do is you'll just block things
You're
in.
kind of staining the
Thinner,
canvas.
staining, but you can also put it on very thick, okay? And you'll mix on there. So all the different ways. Just for putting on first, we're just going to do a couple different ways. And then of course you already know how to do it with palette knives and stuff. So you can put things on with palette knife. And a lot of times I'll block the whole painting in with the palette knife.
This is exciting.
I'll block things in with the palette knife, and I'll actually mix up different colors and stuff with the palette knife. I say, okay, this is going to be a lighter area. But you see how just with the palette knife, you can start to get some interesting, as you scrape it in and all of this, you get interesting techniques by having different layers of things. And you can kind of mix on the palette too by taking colors and then putting them into each other.
Well, I want to show how thick it is because you have to get over that idea of being timid.
I put out way bigger piles of paint when I'm blocking things in, but just getting some interesting colors down here, you know, and you can put, this is something Richard had showed me long ago about putting white down and then with a brush or with a palette knife, taking a pure color like a dark and going over that so that it gets transparent as you go over it. So you get all these streaks, and you can do it with a brush too, where you take the dark and you go right over the white and you get little streaks in there. See that? Little streaks
Really
and
nice,
things.
yes.
So you get a little bit of that texture. Now then the other way you can apply things is with these rubber tools themselves. So I'll use them almost like a palette knife, and then you can apply paint with them directly on the canvas, okay, like this, and work it into things, or with this bigger tool. I do it often with this tool, and I can take it in there, and then I can apply things as I'm blocking in, and then you start to rub things together with it. So then you can really play around with these sorts of tools. There's so many different ways you can do it, but see how it leaves kind of the stain through it? And then you can put things back on.
Well, you don't have to waste the paint that's on there. I mean, you
No.
could scrape that off and mix a pile.
When it scrapes off, what I'll do is I'll take it here, then, and I've got a bunch of paint on here. I'll take it, and then I just scrape it off of this, and I'll put it back on here. And I'll make, you know, whatever color it is, or gray pile. I really rarely throw paint out that I take off. So now this can become a nice pile of a color, okay, that you can put on with your brush or your palette. And I'll usually have different piles of the grays that I'll kind of save the yellows and stuff. And then you can put that right on as another color, okay?
Be uncomfortable to do it at first, especially if you are someone who
And if
doesn't
you-
use as much
So
paint.
say you're doing a face, or, well, you do flowers a lot. So let's do some sort of red or something. So now you can take on top of these things, and you can then, you've got these interesting backgrounds, and you can block in some areas where you're going to have flowers or whatever, okay? And so you're blocking in the shapes over things. Now, sometimes, a lot of times I'll put in the flower areas or the bright areas onto the blank canvas. So I'll start out with things like this, okay, on the canvas, and but they can be kind of interesting looking, and then you'll have something you can carve around.
Yeah,
it.
you can keep that abstraction as the flower.
But yeah, you've got a lot of these interesting things, and so I'll tend to block things in like that. And so once you have this on here, there's so many things you can do. You can then take a paper towel, and you can rub things together, and you can do all kinds of interesting things. So this is like, it's harder to do once you put a lot of time into it, but I'll block in a face too sometimes with just straight paint, and then I'll take this tool, like say I'm going to do a face or whatever it is, and I'm blocking it in with a brush, and I'm using it. See, I've almost used up your paint already that I put out here. So say I'm blocking in a face with some light colors in here. Okay, so we're getting some kind of flesh tone thing here. Now we'll tend to block it in with thicker paint, even if I'm going to end up softening it up later. I'll put in thicker paint, and I'll block in that, and then maybe I'll block in where the eye sockets are going to be here, and the nose, and then, get the outside of the face and the hair. So you're kind of blocking in all of these things with the thicker paint and starting to get it together onto the white canvas. Then I'll go, before I even then start to refine things, and I'll just go through a lot of this stuff, and I'll pull it together, letting a little of whatever background, or if it's white, show through. Then I'll start to, on top of this, I'll start to refine things.
You're going, a little bit fast and a little bit crazy,
Yeah.
but it's the idea.
The idea is what I'm trying to show you. Then I can take softer brushes, and you can start to then.
What are you looking for? It may not
brush
be in there, but
something like this.
Tons of
So then you can go back into things, and you can start to refine or soften stuff to where you go over this, and you might just start to, work your shapes more on top of it. And then some of this stuff will show through, and some of it won't. I've got a few videos where I go through how to soften once you've done all this stuff. There's probably not enough time to really go into that. But this is what I would tell you to start to practice, is playing around with these techniques. So scooping paint together here with this, okay? And just seeing the effect that you get as you put them down, okay?
So fun.
I mean, and if you just play around with these things on your palette, on a canvas like this, you start to get a sense of how they react. And I'll do things where I'll take like kind of squeegee things that you use for your windows and stuff.
Really big, wide
I
ones.
got those too.
And I'll cut like little notches in them. And so that as you pull it across here, it'll give you streaks, but it'll reveal what's underneath and on top. And so there's so many different boring, and so I'll start to scrape some of the areas away like this, and just kind of try to start to, you've already got your areas, if it's the background or flowers or stuff, and I'll just scrape right across some of the things that I've painted on the face or whatever, just in the hair, so that it starts to get interesting and unified and gives you some fun patterns. You see how you're starting to get some complexity in there? And lines, I'll do that a lot of times where I'll outline the face with that. And then if you put on if you make it wet a little bit, let's try that here. Let's clean this off. Let's put a little more mineral spirits in your can here so I can.
Yeah.
And so I can just pour a little bit of mineral spirits in the bottom, and later I'll pour it into the can. And that way you can dip into it and get your whole thing wet. Okay? And then once you've got it, this whole length of this wet, and you drag it, it'll pull things off more.
That's cool.
So, or you can just go right onto this here. I'll use your other tool here, so you can see that one. So you can just kind of like take some mineral spirits, and you can make an area a little damp with some of the mineral spirits, Then when you go into here, it's going to pull it off a lot more. So you see how you can then kind of make lines and stuff. So you can go through it and see that interesting patterns you get with that. So then it could become a nice background, but you'll still have some of that showing through.
Exactly.
So you see how that can then, if this is to be a background or something, you don't want it to be quite so wild. You know, you see how you're just settling it up here.
We got home from our trip and so happy to be with my baby Theo and my other baby Fig, you see up in the upper right corner. They both love to sleep with me when I'm working on the computer. I wanted to share a little still life that I just posted on Instagram. It's a 12x9, and I really did have to make up that big yellow flower in the upper corner. I just could not get it. But I like this little painting. I like the colors, and I'm definitely trying to paint brighter and prettier. I look like this. My goal was to wake up and start cutting down my wildflowers. This was an epic fail. I don't know what went wrong. So I had this like big, nice open circle that I was hoping to have wildflowers. And I sprinkled seeds. I obviously sprinkled too many seeds. But I mean, I didn't even get that many wildflowers. So pretty much, I mean, there's a few right there. It's been just looks like weeds. So I don't know what I did wrong. I mean, did they not bloom because there was too many seeds? I don't know. I had this great plan that I was gonna wake up and I was gonna like weed and cut this back and open it up because I have a rose bush, I have other things going on in there that are probably killed by now. But have you ever had this where like I was fine and then I was getting some coffee and all of a sudden just I breathed in wrong and I completely had this back strain. So I've been nursing it with a heating pad for the last couple hours, and I'm probably not going to be, I mean, it's a gorgeous day, so I thought, oh, it'd be perfect to weed. But I have to now figure out like what I can do today that isn't physical. I mean, it's so upsetting. I'm still in my bathrobe. But see that big giant area? So I thought, well, I'll just show you a few things that I'm doing in my studio. Scott has been painting a lot. I know he has, I know he's organized that building a lot. Wait, that building over there a lot. I haven't shown it to you. Wait, get into my studio. And I thought, well, to be somewhat productive, I would show you what I've been doing a little bit since we've been home since New York. I'm gonna say something that might sound a little bit woo-woo, but I don't know, I believe it. So I just started filming right outside in front of my house, and it was completely dead traffic. Completely. I mean, it's Saturday morning, but completely dead. We live on a kind of a country road and we can get traffic and stuff, but totally dead. I start filming, all of a sudden, 10 cars in a row, super loud, right? I wonder if I'm hypersensitive or if I manifest traffic. I know that sounds weird, but over the past years, since we have been doing voiceover, since I've been doing these videos at my house, I've just noticed it. It's kind of like, I feel like it's a phenomenon. You know, when you put a camera up to somebody and you want to take a photo of them, all they do is start blinking, but they weren't blinking before. Well, I'm not joking. I swear to God, I wish I could do an experiment, but there is something weird. Like the universe is either telling me something and I don't know. Every time I start to like film something in my yard, every time I'm doing anything, especially out in the yard, even it can be in the house or in the studio, all of a sudden, it's like, shoo, shoo, shoo. And then I'll stop filming and like for a half hour, 40 minutes, no traffic at all. What does that mean? Every time I breathe in, I feel it. It's like I have to be really careful. So I have to just let this like subside, you know? It's like, I'm sure we've all had this where you just breathe in wrong or something, and all of a sudden, and then there's like a muscle or a nerve and it goes up your shoulder and makes it a little bit hard to breathe. So I just have to figure out what I can be productive without doing anything majorly stressful. Anyways, I just wanted to talk about that because it's something I think about every time I film. And anyways, okay, now I've said it. I don't have to say it again. I just wanted to mention why I'm still in a robe, why I look like this. But I wanted to show you something. This is an 18 by 24 poster. It came rolled up, came in this box, and I laid it out flat. You can still see the bottom is curling just a tiny bit, but I laid it flat underneath something for a day or two, and it helped a lot. What I wanted to show you was, because of like the YouTube channel or Instagram, a lot of people ask us, do you have a print of this? Do you have a print of that? And they don't realize, nowadays we have companies like this. I'm always trying to find the best company and one that can fulfill it so that I don't have to order, because we have prints that were made years ago, and then we made that beautiful one of Scott's Hand of Creation that was limited edition, right? So it's extremely high end, and it's only an edition of 40, and Scott signed them and numbered them and everything. But I've always been looking for companies that can do what you just call like unlimited posters. And I want to get a pretty good image. So you see that it really does, it gets pretty good. And now this particular painting in real life is 16 inches by 12. Now this poster is 24 by 18. So it is completely blown out, meaning it's huge. And you can do this with every painting. I Googled what companies do products through YouTube that you could put on a YouTube channel, right? And this one came up called Spreadshirt. Now, I'm sure there's lots of other companies. So I'm just trying to find. Now, if anybody has recommendations, this was pretty good. It took 2 weeks. It took 2 weeks to come. But I think, it's gloss. But I think it's, we can do this with any painting. And I think it's a great thing. And so now when people ask us, do you have a particular poster of this? I can say, hey, I can upload that image to this site and you can order it yourself, whatever size you want. I just wanted to talk about this because I'm not positive that I'm going to use this company. I want to test out another company or two. Please, in the comments, if you know of these fulfillment, meaning that we don't have to pre-order, that they will ship it to whoever buys it, and they do all of that. If you know of any companies, please tell me, because we would love to be able to offer this for our paintings. Here's the state of my studio with just dozens of what I'm calling sketches, little demo-y type things. For the most part, they're really just done for fun. I don't have any deadlines for these. I don't have like even any frames. Just really doing them just for practice. This was the demo that I started for my workshop, and I thought I would just bring it home and just experiment a little bit with breaking up some of these edges. I like to put things upside down because you see things differently in your brain. And it'll be easier for me to take a big brush or a big palette knife or something and just disappear or do diagonal shapes, breaking up some of these leaves. So if I paint this upside down, I don't think so much about keeping what's already there. It's easier to destroy, meaning I can do brush strokes that disappear things, that drag right over things. I see relationships just a little bit better. And that's what I've been kind of doing without starting anything that's ambitious, right? I'm just looking at it upside down, and I'm just taking big brushes, and you see how, like within a shape, just creating a little bit more texture, maybe breaking up some edges of like some of these onions or some of these smaller shapes that maybe just look a little bit too literal, right? That's what I'm trying to get away from. I think I'm gonna tone down this yellow. I think originally that fabric wasn't that color yellow, and then I made it yellow to balance the dress of the doll. But now I feel like it's too strong. So now I'm gonna create some more neutrals and just drag it over there. And I'm gonna have to drag some neutrals over those greens, so they don't stand out as much. But that's kind of what I've been doing in my studio recently. And I have been going through brushes. So I have tons of brushes up there. Look at all these brushes, holy cow. Look at all these brushes. When I was changing up my downtown studio, I just took all of these brushes and I just put them in this shopping bag. And I didn't know what to do with them. They're just accumulation. Plus I have some brushes still downtown. I even have all these brushes in here. Now, I go through phases with brushes. Like sometimes I fall in love with a certain type of brush and I use it all the time. And you know what? I mean, it's like what I've been really doing is just individually going through brushes and just double checking. Are these still usable? Have they gotten what you call hard? Is there paint still in them, right? So I'm just kind of going through them. I don't know how to store them right now. I still have to figure out the best way to store all these brushes. I mean, these are definitely some of my favorites. And I like them when they get this way. People like to keep them pristine. I don't want to keep them pristine. So these are the Eclipse Long Comber. Absolutely love these flats. And I love this brush. In fact, I need to get another one of this. Look at, I had to cut a part of it because I had gotten something on it, but that's all right. Eclipse Long Filbert. Love, love, love these brushes. And I love these angled ones. So this is Evergreen Dagger by Rosemary & Co. I would say 95% of my brushes are Rosemary & Co. I still have brushes that I've had before that. And sometimes people just give us brushes. But little by little, I'm going through them, making sure they're clean, and then I'm going to organize them by size and by style. So I can try and be productive doing that today. I want to end this video with a painting that I found on Pinterest. Now, this is, I think, the very first painting Scott ever did of me at the Palette and Chisel. I was 19, and this was in 1989. And he painted this on a gessoed masonite. So if you look really close, you can see some textures. And I think Scott's parents have this painting, but I was going through Pinterest, and the interesting thing about Pinterest is, all of a sudden I'll just see older work of Scott's and mine pop up, and it's because somebody else has saved it. And so I'm assuming we posted this or somewhere I have this, because where else would have someone gotten it? But yeah, I'm just like, whoa, seeing this, and I thought I would share it. I tell people this story because Scott was living in Oak Park. So I grew up in Oak Park, Illinois, and Scott happened to be having an apartment in Oak Park at the time. And we were just talking about that at the Palette and Chisel, and that's how we met, actually. So, but this pose, I can't remember if Scott put me in this or if Ramel de la Torre put me in this, but you see how my wrist is? It was so uncomfortable, and I wanted to be such a good model, right? I didn't want to get out of pose that I just started to tear up. And, it was such a big deal because I was going to the American Academy of Art. And so I had heard about all these great artists like Richard Schmid and Scott Burdick and Nancy Guzik. And so when I got the opportunity to pose for a portrait, I remember this was a Monday night, they put me, I was like leaning on one hip and I was leaning on this elbow and resting my chin on my wrist kind of thing. I've always been, because of this experience, I have always been very, very conscious about making a model comfortable. I swear, pillows in the lap, making sure that they're not twisted. I just am hyper vigilant because I remember being a young girl and just never wanting, I didn't want to create waves. I didn't want to say anything. So I don't know if it was Nancy or if it was Scott who had noticed that during one of the sessions, one of the half hours, I just started to have tears come down my face. And, they stopped it and I told them and they were like, why didn't you tell us? And of course, you don't want to, you're so intimidated. But I wanted to share this painting because it popped up on my Pinterest, and I hope you enjoy. It is a flashback to when Scott and I, his very first painting he ever did of me. Thanks for watching. Until the next video, bye-bye.